I'd like to start off with a little story about an incident that happened to me this morning. I was at the Pennsylvania Driver's Agency downtown to renew my license and to get my real ID. Does anyone have a real ID yet? All right. So I went in and I got number 101I. So I'm sitting there in the crowd and suddenly they say, 101I, report to table number 2. So I walk up, sit down, and this person that didn't seem too happy with his position today, he starts asking me for all kinds of forms of ID. And I was prepared for this. I had my passport, I had my driver's license, obviously, I had my registration for my vehicle, life insurance registration for the vehicle. And then he asked me, how about your Social Security card? So I pulled out my Social Security card, and it was so old he could barely read it. But then I pulled out this, my Robert Morris ID from 1972. And I said, will this work? And he looked at it, and there was this young fellow with long hair. Yes, hair and long hair. He said, no. He said, that's not going to work. But anyway, I did qualify for the real ID, and I renewed my driver's license at the center. But I want to tell you, I've carried this in my wallet since 1972. And I wanted to share with you the benefits of having this. First of all, if someone doesn't believe you once had hair and it was long, you pull it out and you show them. The other thing is you can use this for discounts because you get student ID discounts wherever you go. I go to restaurants, 20% off, sporting events, 20% off. They're not asking me if I'm a current student. It just says, those with student ID go to this line over here. And it's a reduced price. I'm telling you, it works. Get your old student ID out. Enough frivolity. Chris, you mentioned calling us to your office, and I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. On Thursday, September the 5th, I was checking my cell phone like we all do every 15 minutes. And I looked, and I saw that I just received, and Carol just received, an email from President Howard's office. I immediately dialed Carol on the phone. I said, Carol, did you get that email? Yeah. What do you think Howard wants? Yep, I agree. He wants money. Well, what the email said was, you're invited to come to Dr. Howard's office to meet with him for coffee for a half an hour on an upcoming day. Well, it just so happens I had a Board of Visitors meeting coming up the next week, and Carol's on campus all the time. So we scheduled a meeting. And I remember walking up to his office. He greeted us. He brought us into his office. He sat us down. And first thing he said was, I bet you think I'm going to ask you for money. He said, not now, but that'll be another time. Rather, we want to bestow on both of you the Heritage Award. You could have knocked me off a chair with a feather. I thought, he's making a mistake. I can't believe he's choosing us, because I know of the other recipients in prior years, the illustrious group, many of them are here. And I thought, wow, what an honor. But Carol and I are truly humbled and honored by this award. And we would like to thank President Howard, all the Board of Trustees, Board of Visitors that are here, faculty, administration, staff, and most importantly, the students. The students are the lifeblood of this institution, the lifeblood. And Carol and I are not the typical colonial couple because we went to school in different decades here. I was here, here's the date, 1970 to 74, and she went in 1988 for her master's in taxation. So our journeys began on different paths, but we all nonetheless have reaped the rewards and the benefits of Robert Morris. And I'd like to share my story with you, and then Carol's going to have a few remarks afterwards. And I'd like to title my remarks, The Fork in the Road and Your On Button. It was almost exactly 50 years ago this month that I first heard the name Robert Morris College. I grew up in northern New Jersey, and neither of my parents knew anything about college, but they had a common interest in seeing that myself and my sister, we had a better start to our lives. They wanted us to go to college. They had experienced the Great Depression and the World War II era. But back then in my youth, I had little interest in academics. I never took a book home from high school. In fact, I was more interested in cars, girls, cigarettes, beer, rock and roll, and hot rodding around town. That was my interest. One day, my dad arrived home from work, and he was a salesman, and he had a brochure in his hand. He had a brochure, and he handed it to me, and it was from Robert Morris College, as it was called back then. You see, he had a customer whose son was going to Robert Morris in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So he showed it to me, and he said, "What do you think, son, about going to college?" I said, "I really don't have any interest, Dad." But he convinced me to quickly take my SAT exams and get the results back. And then I think he sent in the application. He just had me sign it. He sent it in. A few weeks later, something came in the mail to me. It was an envelope. I opened it up, and here, I couldn't believe it. I was accepted to college. Robert Morris accepted me. They were going to give me a chance. Again, I thought maybe it's a mistake. And that's what my dad thought. He quickly sent in a deposit. He didn't even ask me if I wanted to go. He sent in a deposit before the rejection came or a correction letter. So a few weeks later, I was on the road to Moon Township by myself for a 2-day orientation program. I knew nothing about Pittsburgh other than the pictures and photos that I saw in my history books. That dark, smoky city with the air so thick from soot and smoke that you could cut it with a knife. And as I came through the Squirrel Hill tunnels, I rounded the bend, and there in front of me were 2 big smokestacks from the J&L Southside Works, spewing fire and smoke. I said, "This is it. This is Pittsburgh. This is Pittsburgh." I knew it. But then the parkway makes a bend, and it veers toward downtown. And I looked ahead of me, and there was this shiny, beautiful city. The air was clear, and the water in the Mon River was clean, and there were boats on the river. I arrived home the next day, and my dad said, "Son, what do you think?" I said, "Oh, it's quite nice, but I'm not going." He said, "You're not going?" I said, "Dad, I don't want to go to college. I want to stay in Jersey with my friends and just continue working at my janitorial service job and maybe a gas station or another manual labor job." And he said, "Son, give it a try for 1 semester. 1 semester, if you don't like it, you can come home and your jobs will be waiting for you." This was my life's fork in the road. I had a choice. I could stay in New Jersey, or I could go out to college at Robert Morris University in Moon Township. This is the path that I chose. That's the fork in the road that changed my life. Shortly thereafter, we got in the car, and they were taking me to the campus for my first day at Robert Morris College. And I remember driving on the turnpike, and it was a rainy, dreary day. And my dad had opened his Esso Oil Company map. That's the predecessor to Exxon. And we pulled over, and he looked at the map. He said, "There's all these beltways around the city, major highways around the city, and one of them goes over toward Robert Morris." So we got off the turnpike, and we quickly found out the beltways are just 2-lane roads that go nowhere, and no one ever uses them. And we arrived at the campus finally, and it was not a good ending to our journey. After moving me into the dorm on campus, my parents subsequently drove off, leaving me in this strange place. And I did not want to be here. I really didn't want to be here. But I was hungry, and I ventured out of my dorm, Adams dorm, on the campus, still there. Went over to Jefferson Center, the cafeteria, to get a bite to eat. And kind of a personal miracle occurred. I struck up a conversation with a young student from Charleroi, Pennsylvania. He's here tonight, Ed Travisary. And we became friends, later roommates, and now we're lifelong friends, and we're Steeler tailgate partners as well. And then another personal miracle occurred. I began attending class, studying, getting involved with student government activities, and I even did well. I was getting on Dean's List because, you see, my on button was pushed. My on button was pushed. I truly believe we all have an on button, and some of us have on buttons that are on from birth. We're driven, we're passionate, we're going to change the world from birth. Others, it takes a while. It takes a long time. Some of us, our on button isn't pushed till our 50s, 60s, 70s. But mine was pushed here in this wonderful learning environment and by this faculty that inspired me. Flashing forward, I graduated from Robert Morris with my Bachelor of Science in Marketing. I went on for my MBA at Duquesne University. I met Carol at the Rusty Scupper downtown. I got interested in finance and investments, got a job as a stockbroker, went on to Morgan Stanley, and I've been there ever since. I've enjoyed a 40-year career and a wonderful life. I want to tell you all, I'm not done yet. Looking back, like many of us here, I owe it all to Robert Morris for taking a chance on this kid from New Jersey and for taking the correct fork in the road toward Moon Township. And for this wonderful institution, the teachers, everyone here, the environment, pressing my on button, all resulting in a wonderful life. In conclusion, my story is not unique. There have been thousands of young people who've come through this institution, and their lives have been changed by Robert Morris University. We've all enjoyed a path to success in a wonderful career and a rewarding life. We all thank Robert Morris University. And now I'd like to introduce my parenting partner of 37 years, the most amazing, talented woman I know, and she will close out with some wonderful remarks. Carol?
Thank you. What he really wanted to tell you was that he changed more diapers than me. So anyway, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Doug, and I'm not sure I can top that, but I will give it a try. So one of the most, I would say, common denominators that Doug and I have throughout our life is that we both share a passion for whatever we get involved in. If he joins a board, they get me. If I join a board, they get him. And we kind of put 110% into everything I do. According to Doug, there is no halfway, just jump in. So it was somewhat natural that when I came to Robert Morris, I would bring this same passion to the School of Business. When I accepted Pat Litzinger's offer to become the head of the Department of Accounting and Taxation after my retirement from Deloitte. And I don't think Pat is here tonight, but I owe him a debt of gratitude for offering this opportunity to me. I'm one of these bottom line people, so it's like, learning curve? What's a learning curve? Just jump into the deep end of the pool. Anything is possible, right? And so that's exactly what I did. I enjoyed a wonderful, robust, and rewarding career at Deloitte, but I have found that since coming to RMU, I've had a few challenges in academia, but I've also found that it is a great blessing working in this environment, and that's part of what I would like to share with you tonight. I'm a CPA and a CFP, and I got into the accounting profession at a time where there were very few women. I was one of the few women admitted to the partnership of what was the Big 8 accounting firms in Pittsburgh. We now have the Big 4, but whatever, the largest firms globally in the world. Now I'm in a position where I'm really kind of working on the front lines of the supply chain for the people that are going into the accounting profession. So that is really interesting, and also the folks that are going into the financial planning profession. In my role, I work with students to try to decide where they see themselves on the accounting spectrum, how they can prepare for the CFP and the CPA exam, and also to sort out what are the opportunities out there. Having to call a lot of companies and ask for their business, I have no fear. And it's okay for me to just call someone up and say, could you use another intern? I have someone for you. So it's really kind of been a delightful opportunity to use my sales experience for the benefit of selling for the university and our students. I refer to this as work, but it is not really working because I feel that in my work it is not a toil at all. I think of the words of Andrew Carnegie, who founded the university that I graduated from as an undergraduate, who said, "My heart is in the work." And I never knew that he said that until I recently looked at that. And I would tell you that my heart is in my work at RMU, but it is not just my heart that is in this work. I'd like to take a few minutes to pay tribute to the faculty of this university that I have come to love and respect, because as a parent, Doug and I have paid a ton of tuition, mostly to Penn State University. And I can tell you, I did have Graham Spanier's personal email and phone number, because I threatened if I didn't get some action, I was going to call this guy. But getting things done at Penn State is one thing. Getting something done at Robert Morris to help a student is a totally different issue. And we help students every day, academically, personally, roommate changes, you name it. It's, as parents, you know, it's all those things that influence what happens at a university for your student. So at this university, the faculty's hearts are truly in the work. Doug spoke about his experiences at RMU in the 70s and the impact of the faculty. Times have changed, but in my opinion, the heart and soul of this university is very much the same. In the words that have been recently put on a lot of billboards, we are large enough to matter and small enough to care. And I credit this to Dr. Howard for coining these lines. This is more than a tagline. It's what we continue to be today, and I see it every day in action. I've witnessed firsthand how RMU can change students' lives, but the faculty are an amazing part of this. And I have a little poem that I borrowed from something I found on my alma mater's website, but every day our faculty help our students live it, breathe it, love it, write it, rewrite it, nail it, hack it, attack it, we move, we groove, we start up, we start over, we tinker, we imagine, we dare, and of course, we dream and help them dream. I could not be more proud than I am today to teach at this university with my colleagues and help another generation develop and grow, and in Doug's words, find their on button. It's a privilege for Doug and I to receive this award here tonight and to be with you and to accept it, and we thank you very much and sincerely.